next Friday is a 5th Friday, so we're not going to have Mastermind next Friday, okay? So I just wanted you to be aware of that. 5th Fridays, we usually either, invite somebody to come talk, or we let it go, and it's just a day off for us. So we'll, as far as we know right now, we're not going to be having anything next Friday. One final announcement, we have Shop VIP coming up November 6th and 7th. And so I want to tell you about that. Rachel Brinker is going to be here doing that. And I think she's the only vendor that we have here on the call. But if you're in the Indianapolis area, I would love for you to come and support Shop VIP. So we are featuring local female artists, and we're doing a Shop Till You Drop day. That Friday night, November the 6th, we're having, it's more of a formal thing. You get to dress up, have fun, social network. We're going to have food. We're going to have an art exhibition. We are going to have indoor vendors who will have their booth set up. There will be food flowing. We've got some donations from local wineries for wine tasting, which will be fun. And we're also doing a silent auction. You would not believe what our vendors are donating for silent auction. I mean, these are fantastic gifts. They're not little doo-doo gifts. So we'll be doing the silent auction. Those proceeds will be going to our VIP Business Women's Scholarship Fund. And we just absolutely love to have you out here to support that. And then the Saturday is Shop Till You Drop. We're going to have vendors inside and outside. So it's going to be a treat. You can see that on our Facebook page, and let me know if you need more info on that. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine Cliff to rock us with her knowledge. Catherine, it's all yours.
All righty. Well, of course, yesterday I did the recording of the Sedona Method for the Wellbeing Fest that's going to be virtual. That's November 17th and 18th. So the talk is basically going to be on the Sedona Method. So I encourage you to come, and it's free of charge, but you do have to register. So that's, once I have the link, once we get the links, we'll be promoting that. So just kind of an FYI on that. But yes, I wanted to share with you a very simple yet a very powerful method that has completely transformed my life, and it's called the Sedona Method, or it's also known as letting go or releasing. Has anybody ever heard of the Sedona Method at all? Okay. Well, like I said, it's a very, very simple process. In fact, it's so simple, the mind will say, you can't possibly have that happen with that simple technique. It couldn't possibly work that way. Well, the first thing I want to do is basically go through an analogy how letting go works. So I want everybody to pick up a pen and hold it in your hand. And I want you to squeeze it as hard as you possibly can. Okay? And the longer you squeeze it, you're going to notice two things. Number one, it gets to feel very uncomfortable. And number two, it becomes very familiar. And that's what we do with our feelings. Now, I want you to open your hand and roll the pen around in your hand. Notice the pen is not attached to your hand. And that's exactly how it is with our feelings. Our feelings are not attached to us. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to grip the pen again, turn your hand over, open your hand, and drop the pen. That is letting go. It is just a decision. You can do the same thing with your feelings. So now we're going to walk through the very simple exercise of letting go. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of something that bothers you, either a person or a situation, perhaps all the fear that's around right now. And I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most intense and 1 being the least intense. Now I want you to put your hand over your heart, because you basically let go from the neck down. The mind will try to help, but the mind will only get in the way. Now, as you think about that situation or person and just get in touch with the feeling, I want you to just welcome the feeling. Just allow it to be there. And if you can't welcome it or allow it, just notice it. Because believe it or not, welcoming, allowing, and noticing are all the same thing. And you actually can start letting go, the letting go process can actually begin just by noticing that feeling. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to ask you 3 simple questions, and don't overthink these. So as you get in touch with that feeling, could you let it go? Just could you? Are you capable? Just like you let the pen go. Yes or no. Either answer is acceptable. Believe it or not, you can let go by saying no. Just be honest with yourself. Second, would you let it go? Would you be willing? Yes or no? And finally, when? Do you want to let it go now, or do you want to hold it on for later? Your decision. Now, I want you to get in touch with that feeling again and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Did you notice that your number dropped? Even if it drops 1 point, you still let go. So again, you may have to go through a couple of rounds or whatever, but believe it or not, it is that simple. And if you have trouble letting go, just kind of ask yourself this question. Would I rather hold on or suffer, or would I rather let go and be free? It is your decision. And let me just kind of share with you also how many people's number dropped when they did that. Good, very good. And you can let go of traumas during doing that. You can let go of amazing things. Abundance can, you can set goals and achieve them with that. It is so simple. Like I said, the mind will go, it doesn't work that way. You can't possibly let go that way. And what's very interesting is, say, for example, you feel like, a tightness in your stomach, your chest, that's just kind of stuck energy. So if you put your attention on it, just notice how you can actually feel the flow going out as you just notice it. In fact, what you might want to do is, you can come up with an imaginary door in your stomach, your chest, and just kind of watch the energy go out. And you can kind of play with that. In the very beginning, when I was learning this, we'd say, okay, now close the door. And then you'd feel the tightness start again. And then we'd say, okay, now just open the door. And you'd feel the energy go. You could actually feel it. It was a very subtle sensation, but you can actually do that. In fact, you can actually be in release during your day just by accepting everything the way it is and not resisting it, not liking it, or in fact, not liking is resisting. So if you just accept everything the way it comes, you'd be surprised at how your day is going to go. I just can't tell you on that. But let me just kind of give you some background on the Sedona Method. It was basically founded by a gentleman by the name of Lester Levinson. Now, Lester was a brilliant physicist, and he'd worked on the Manhattan Project during World War II. For those of you who don't know what the Manhattan Project is, it is the atomic bomb. But in 1952, at the age of 42, he had had his second massive heart attack. Now, this was a time when there was no open heart surgery, no bypass, no nothing. So his doctors came to him in the hospital and said, Lester, there is nothing more we can do for you. You're going to be dead in 2 weeks. Go home. We need your bed. They also advised him to go out and buy a pair of loafers because he was too sick to bend down and tie his shoes. So Lester went home and he told himself, Lester, for being such a smart boy, you are stupid, stupid, stupid. So at that time, he didn't really believe in a higher self. He was Jewish and he didn't particularly believe in God or whatever, but he knew he had to find the answer. And he knew the answer was not outside of himself. So he made the journey inward. And he basically asked himself these 2 questions. Who am I? What am I? And what is my purpose here in this world? And in 3 months' time, he completely healed himself. He went on to live another 42 years. And at that time, he was in New York, but he decided to move to Arizona, where he actually started a retreat center in Sedona. And that is where the name, the Sedona Method, comes from. So that's just a little background on the Sedona Method. But I'm telling you, it is very, very powerful. I'm just going to share with you how it has worked in my life. Number one, by letting go, I was actually given a horse right out of the blue at no charge. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, I was just flabbergasted when that happened. Also, just by letting go, I was able to let go of oncoming flu symptoms in as little as 15 minutes. And something pretty amazing happened last year. I actually beat the IRS. And that was just, believe me, I can't even tell you how that happened. It was like, I got this letter in August of last year that I was going to be audited for my business expenses. Now, this shocked me because nothing had changed from the previous year. And I went to my accountant and she said, well, I don't understand it either. And they were wanting me to get together all the documents to prove what my business expenses was. And that would be so time consuming to try to pull all that out and where it all was and that kind of thing. So, you know, and we thought, and if anybody's ever dealt with a government agency, the state Department of Internal Revenue is impossible to deal with. Number one, they've got this blasted, what do you call it, a menu that you go through. And when you finally get to a person, it's like you tell them what the situation is. You supposedly write down the notes. And then when you call back, they've never heard, you know, you get somebody else, they've never heard of you. No department knows what the other department is doing. It was probably one of the most frustrating things I had ever dealt with. And the other thing was, you know, we told them, well, can we send you the information? Well, they had a fax machine. Well, the only problem was the fax machine, they turned it off at 5 o'clock in the evening and you couldn't get through. It was always busy. There was no way you could fax it. So basically we knew, well, we can take the material downtown and drop it off. Well, I didn't want to do that because I don't like to drive downtown. But, you know, I told my accountant, you know, please go downtown and drop off the information. So this was right before Thanksgiving. And, you know, I think it was 2 days before Thanksgiving of last year, I get a letter saying, they're satisfied, they've dropped it, they, you know, whatever it was, because I owed them like $600 if I could, you know, otherwise it's like, and no, my accountant said, just go ahead and pay them. And I'm like, no, it's the principle of the thing. I don't owe this money. And she said, well, Catherine, you can't beat them. And I'm like, well, fine. So I just kept letting go on it. And so finally I get this letter saying, you know, well, they'd gotten whatever they wanted, they were satisfied. And I assumed my accountant had dropped off the information. And so it wasn't until after Thanksgiving that I got a hold of her and I said, you obviously had dropped off the information. She said, no, Catherine, I never did. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, who knows what happened? All I can say is, you know, that's just how powerful that is. And the other thing, I mean, probably the biggest thing though was it really helped me let go of a marriage of 23 years that was so unsupportive and emotionally abusive, and my job of 25 years that became so stressful that I developed shingles in the last year that I was at RCI. And again, I didn't think I could possibly let go of these two things because these were my security blankets. You know, I thought I needed them to survive, but and I held on. I mean, I held on and I just got more miserable, more unhappy. And finally, I just kept, you know, realizing this almost like a tiny little voice is saying, let go, let go. And I finally decided I need to let go. And what I didn't realize was, you see, I'm totally ignorant when it comes to money. I thought when you got divorced that I got my money and he got his, and I didn't think I could live on what I was making at that time. And a colleague at work said, well, Catherine, you split it down the middle. I'm like, oh, you do? I probably would have divorced 10 years earlier if I'd known that. But I still didn't know, you know, I thought by releasing I could save the marriage. I really did. That was very strong for me. And so when we have support calls for the Sedona Method, so I asked the facilitator who, you know, the mentor of it, I said, when do you know a relationship is over? And he made this analogy. He said, relationships are like shoes. They may fit in the beginning, but you outgrow them. And light bulb went on. I said, great, I can do this. And like I said, by letting go of that marriage, I found out that I had enough money to live on for the rest of my life. I had no idea. My husband was a CPA. He'd been investing all this money for me. And I had no idea. In fact, it's like, you know, it's like my attorney said, do you have any idea? And I said, no. And he said, what do you have? I said, no, I don't. And so he said, you need a financial planner. I said, really? So, that was just, it blew my mind. And then again, by letting go of RCI, which, my mind was telling me, oh, there's nothing more you can do. That's the only thing you're good at or whatever. It's like, I happened to be going to one of the retreats for the Sedona Method. And I asked somebody, what do you do? And they said life coaching, which I had never heard of. And when they told me what it was, I was like, and people pay you to do this? So it was like, so in fact, initially I was certified in a coaching program with the law of attraction, but it was too general. I didn't have enough confidence to coach it. And the mentor of that program had a program in hypnotherapy, which I was absolutely intrigued with. So I took that program and got certified in hypnotherapy, and still didn't think that was just too general. So when the Tapping into Wealth program came through about letting go, being able to let go of your money programs, it's like, that's it. Most people have so much trouble with money that's going to separate that's going to make me head and shoulders different from just about any, health coach or anybody else. So that really, really resonated with me in that sense. But it's like, that is just, like I said, and it continues to work in my life. And just to kind of let you go and let you know, it's like, like letting go, if you put your hands together and, letting go looks like this, allowing looks like this, noticing looks like this. So it's just a very simple, let it go free. It's like, don't hold on. And like I said, it continues to do amazing things in my life. Like I said, when I did the walk the talk, I wanted to do a walk the talk when I first heard, when I was going to a coaching networking group that has now disbanded, but one of the ladies was saying, oh, I just did a walk the talk. And I'm like, and I wanted to do a TED, I'd seen a couple of TED Talks and I was so inspired with the TED Talks, and I didn't know Indianapolis had anything like that. When she was talking about the walk the talk, then I said, I want to do a walk the talk. And it's like, so in April of 2019, I think Carmen had just done a walk the talk in our holistic hub group. And I said, what's the next topic going to be? And she said, letting go and surrender. And I'm like, I knew the universe was absolutely talking to me. He said, you've got to do it. You've got to do it. So that was really powerful. And it's also kind of helped me accept the fact that I have alopecia areata, and it's been very, very difficult to accept the way I look. And, my own mother couldn't accept it. I mean, she was the first one that said, oh my God, Catherine, get a wig. You look terrible. And it's like, that was probably the most devastating thing I had to deal with, is having your mother look at you and say, I can't accept you that way. It's like, you think your mother would accept you no matter what you look like. Oh no, It's like, oh, for God's sake, get a wig. So even when she was in the nursing home, I just felt like, I have to wear this because my mother, I want my mother to accept me. So it was very painful. And when I was doing one of the retreats, one of the exercises we did was called the mirror exercise, where you're supposed to look in the mirror and love yourself over and over again. Well, initially, that was one of the most challenging things that I had to do, because every time I looked in that mirror, I just saw this God ugly image, looked almost like an alien from outer space. And I thought, I can't love that. It just looks monstrous. So, but I just continued to let go, and I can't describe what happened. It's just like, I began to change. I became more loving, more accepting, more courageous, more confident. And I know in January of 2019, I made a decision that I wanted to appear in public without the wigs. And the Holistic Hub was such a supportive group that they made it possible for me to do that. So I did that. And then when I went to the advanced retreat for the Sedona Method in March of that year, we just went really, really deep with letting go and releasing. And I just knew it was time. So I just kind of stood up in front of the group and I took off my hat and I said, bald is beautiful. And they gave me a standing ovation. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But I love the Sedona Method. I love to share it with anybody that'll listen. And like I said, don't believe a word I say, but take it for checking. It's totally experiential. It's like, everybody has a different experience with it. But all I can say is, with all the fear that's going on right now, if it wasn't for the Sedona Method today, I mean, it has kept me sane. It keeps me on track for my business. Whenever I feel resistance or procrastination, I just start releasing and I just come out of it. So that's just, that's just what I do. So does anybody have
Catherine, I've got a question for you.
Sure.
So can you, what were the 3 questions that you asked when we went through the process?
Could you let it go? Just could you?
Okay.
Would you let it go? Would you be willing? And when? And you don't even have to ask the question. You can bring up the feeling and say, could I let this go? Sure. You just let go. You don't even have to ask the questions. I mean, some people like a little structure, maybe that helps, but it's like, it's almost like tapping, the emotional freedom technique, but you're not tapping. So that's kind of how I also give the analogy. It's like for people who know what tapping is, you're basically tapping on the acupressure points and turning off the fight or flight mechanism. It basically does the same thing, only you're not tapping on any body part or anything. You're just making the decision to let go. It's just a decision.
And then, Catherine, when you typically do this method, do you like set a timer, or like when you were first starting out to do it, did you have, I'm sure it's more organic for you now, maybe not, but did you?
And believe it or not, the mind will not want you to do it. In fact, it's like, that's why you almost need a releasing partner, because if you try to do it on your own, first of all, you'll sit in the chair and your mind will get very distracted with all these wonderful thoughts. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. Or you'll tell yourself, oh, I'm going to release every Saturday morning. You'll never do it. I mean, but I can't tell you why, but it's like the mind will come up with every possible excuse because basically with the Sedona Method, you're undoing the mind. The mind right now is you want the mind to be your servant and not your master. But right now, everybody's mind is their master. So when you do the Sedona Method, you're actually turning off the mind. So in fact, this is kind of what I use it a lot of times for. If the mind is beating me up, I will just let the mind go. In other words, it's kind of like, it's heaping kindness and love on it. It'll just say, you're a terrible coach. Thank you. I love you. You don't know what you're doing. Thank you. I love you. And, if you keep doing that, in about 2 minutes, the mind shuts up. It's very, very powerful in that sense. The mind will you just keep telling it, I love you. I love you. Oh, I love you. And it will just shut up. So that's just a wonderful.
The National Weather Service has issued a special weather statement.
Thank you. Anyway, it's kind of a way to, again, getting control of the mind, because the mind wants to create problems. And what I recognize with the Sedona Method is, it's kind of, I don't know if anybody knows Marianne Williamson, but she said, your greatest fear is not that you're limited, but your greatest fear is that you're powerful beyond measure. And the Sedona Method will basically tap into your true nature. It will identify the truth of who you really are, that you are this unlimited individual and there are no problems. It's only the mind that brings up the problems. And yet how many of us, we just fall back into that pattern because, there's such, again, and particularly right now, there is just so much fear in the world. I mean, normally I don't get caught up in it, but I think it was in September, I was just feeling all this fear. So, when we got on the support call, believe it or not, Hale called on me and he recognized the fear that I was holding. And he probably did a releasing session for at least 15 or 20 minutes, when normally he just works with somebody for 5 minutes. And of course I have the recording of that, so I can go back and listen to that. So, he's very, very, in fact, when you hear his voice, it is so peaceful. He'll just fall into peace. He's also extremely funny. He uses humor too, but it's like, it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, I can't tell you how powerful it is. I just want to give that to you, because if you struggle with feeling stuck in fear, anxiety, whatever it is, and it helps you achieve your goals. You set goals, and what you do with a goal is you bring up, what is the advantage of having this goal? What is the disadvantage of having this goal? Because the mind will say you can't have it, it's like, and you bring up all the resistance and you let it go. And you get very, very clear on whether you want this goal or not. And that's the other thing about the Sedona method. It gives you great clarity. Clarity of mind is a huge thing. Ever since I've been doing this, and I've been doing this 15 years now, but I cannot tell you how clear your mind gets. It's like, it helped me find a lost engagement ring when I was married, which I would never have found if I hadn't let go. I was doing dishes in the ring pot, I took the ring off and I had a swollen knuckle, so it flipped on the floor, and we had a galley kitchen, and I thought, oh, no problem, I'll just get it when I finish, I finished and I looked on the floor and it wasn't there, and I thought, well, I didn't look hard enough, so I looked harder. No, then I started, okay, then I remembered, oh yeah, the widow and the Bible get out the broom to look for a lost coin, so I'll just get out the broom and sweep the floor, right? Still no ring. And at that time, my husband, who was a CPA, this was during tax time, at the very end of tax time, and he was coming home at 10 and 11 o'clock at night with bags under his eyes. And I said, and I'm going to tell him I just lost the engagement ring. He's going to hit the ceiling. No, I don't think I really want to deal with that. You talk about, I went from mild anxiety to sheer panic when I realized I could not find that ring. And then the inner wisdom broke through and said, you can let go, you can release. So I just started letting go of wanting control. And believe it or not, you couldn't believe, it was just instantaneous. I calmed down, I got very peaceful, my mind stopped spinning. I got very clear, I could almost see the trajectory of the ring. I followed it all the way over to where the linoleum rolls up under the cabinets. And I put my hand back there, it was all ruddy and dirty and everything. And I felt something and I flipped it with my finger. It was the ring. If I had not let go, I truly believe that ring would never have been found. It would have stayed with the house. And there have been people, in fact, I know there was a lady that we heard a situation where a lady lost an engagement ring on a beach and was able to find it by letting go. So
just want to check with anybody else. Does anybody else have any questions for Catherine about the Sedona method? So Christina, you're raising your hand.
Yeah. So if I've lost two things, and I try not to freak out and panic. If I don't find them, it's not the end of the world, but I really do want to find them because I don't really know what happened to them. So how did you, they're probably in something I packed away. So theoretically I should be able. So what was your thought process on letting go?
It's kind of like, in fact, it's almost like surrender. You can't figure it out. You can't do it. You just surrender. And I just say something like, I call it beingness. I said, beingness, if you were this object, where would you be? And believe it or not, I get, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. And a thought will come to you, believe it or not.
Okay. So surrender. Cool.
Yeah, okay. Or just say, God, if you were this, where would you be?
So Beth has a question.
Okay.
So Catherine, it sounds like you've had some training on this. You've had some one-on-one work with teachers, you've had group work, and then you're doing this yourself. Mm-hmm. How would you recommend for us that we could use this in addition to kind of personally letting go? Is this something that you need to be certified in order to practice, or how would you use it?
Any way you want. You can actually do this in your sleep. That's why it's so simple. But no, you don't need to be certified. I would like, in fact, Hale is saying, at one time he was certifying coaches. He's not doing that anymore. He just wants to get the method out to the world. That's the whole idea, is to get the method out to the world. He doesn't care. As long as you say what the source is. It's not my method. It's like something I learned. And, I've taken, I don't know how many courses on it and bought so many CDs or whatever. And like I said, I started in 2005 And and it almost didn't happen because, again, at that time I was attending a non-denominational church, and I had gotten the Course in Miracles, if anybody knows what that is. And I thought, oh, this is my key to happiness in the world. I don't need anything else. So, this was a 2-part program that came up at the church called the Abundance Course. And my wonderful mind said, that's materialistic. You're spiritual. You don't want to go to that. So I didn't go to the first part, but there was this snowstorm in January of that year, delayed it another week. And then I thought, you know what? I really want to find out what that's all about. And when I realized just how powerful that was, I was kicking myself for missing the first part. And I'm telling you, miracles started happening almost immediately to me. I mean, I remember I tore a cartilage in my knee, and I went to the emergency room. And when I saw my doctor, he's like, oh, you're going to have surgery on this knee. And, one of my people at that time, we had a local group here in Indianapolis. And they said, oh, Catherine, don't have surgery. Just give it love and approval. And that's all I did. I just gave my knee love and approval. I've never had surgery. My knee is fine. I have full motion of my knee. I mean, people have cured medical conditions. People have cured traumas. People have overcome suicide with this method. I mean, it is so, so powerful that people just can't imagine just what exactly it is. And it's just, just get the mind out of the way and just surrender. And, it's like, let go of resisting, let go. In fact, and really got to let go of it. Trying to figure it out is the mind. And that's one of the things we say. Could you let go of trying to figure it out? Because if you let go of trying to figure it out, you have the answer. It's the mind, as long as you're spinning in the mind, you'll never find the answer. But if you can let go of trying to figure it out, that answer will come to you.
Hey, does anyone else have questions for Catherine?
I do. This is Detroit. Hi, Catherine. How are you?
How are you?
And hi, everyone.
Hi.
So first of all, thank you so much for sharing this with us. You have a beautiful story. And so if I heard you correctly, I think you said that you've used this for procrastination. And if I did not hear you correctly, when it comes to perfectionism and procrastination, because I find out when I'm procrastinating, it's really like some perfectionism stuff. But are there any questions that come to mind that maybe I could ask myself when I have those moments?
I would just say love yourself. That would be what I would recommend. I mean, when you can love yourself, it's like, just feel the love. In other words, just know, in fact, there's one thing we say, it's like, you are complete, perfect, and whole just as you are. You don't need to do anything else. So you are complete, whole, and perfect just as you are. The mind will tell you otherwise, but just tell yourself, you are complete, whole, and perfect just as you are.
Thank you.
You're
and
welcome.
Right before I asked this question, you literally just said, you were just saying, let go of resistance. And I wrote down that too, because really that's actually very powerful and simple. And I'm going to write it on my Post-it note on my desk. Just let go of resisting. Just let go.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Sure.
Hi, Catherine. I second that. Thank you for sharing your story. That was very powerful. Do you have any books or websites that you can refer us to?
Yeah, it's basically Sedona.com, and then there's a book. In fact, I think it's called The Key to Happiness, Peace. Let's see, the key to Happiness, Success, and Peace of Mind is the Sedona book. He'll go through there's different ways you can let go. I like to just do this and the other way, I might share another way. It's called holistic releasing. So you do both parts of it. You say, like, say for example, you want control. You say, could I, it's like, let's see, how is it? It's like, could I allow myself to want control as much as I do? And you say, yeah, you accept that. And you say, could I let go could I let go of being in control as best I can? Or, it's because with a holistic release, they basically kind of like when two opposites come together, a positive and a negative, they annihilate themselves. And that's exactly what you do with holistic releasing. So you can say, you know, can I love this situation? Can I hate this situation as much as I do? Yes. Can I love this situation as best I can? That's kind of what I'm saying. In other words, you just, you know, whatever the opposite is, you know, you take the first and the opposite and you just accept both sides by not resisting either side. And then they just basically dissolve.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I do have a follow-up question. You made a comment that you said, you know, ask yourself, would I rather hold on and suffer than to let it go? And I come from a long line of that within my family that really we say, I suffer, therefore I am. It's like worrying is a virtue, right? And if you don't worry, you're not invested in whatever the problem is. So I'm just wondering, advice from that, you know, point of view, because once again, that's a control thing, right? Is just, you know, I really am interested in this method, and I'm just wondering, you know, I'm feeling like it really might be a challenge because this is so ingrained in really how I was brought up, is to worry about things. So what advice or recommendation do you have?
As I said in the beginning, people hold on because it's familiar. You're so used to worrying, you don't know anything else.
Right.
Maybe give yourself this analogy. Like if you were holding a hot poker, like that means you're worrying. Would you rather hold on to that hot poker, or would you rather be burned, or would you rather let it go?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm interested in these websites, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Ladies, I'm going to have to jump off here. There's a big storm coming, and Amanda Gleason and I, well, we've got to get some partitions off of her truck before it starts. I did want to mention, so some of you are, because you're doing Ready, Set, Succeed or Master Your Mindset, we've got the VIP beach retreat. I want you to be on the lookout today. I'm going to send you an email about, you need to go ahead and book your travel for that. So I'll send out more details about that. For the rest of you who you're in the mastermind, if you're interested in doing our VIP beach retreat, we're doing it the third weekend in January, and I have 2 spots left, 2 spots that are open. So if you want to do a beach retreat, and those of you who have been to it before, you know what it is. You get one-on-one coaching, you get small group coaching. I do small clinics that are business related and mindset related. So I've got some cool stuff lined up for that. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know and I'll give you all the details about it. But if you want to do it, you're going to have to let me know pretty quickly, because we gotta close some things out, and you want to book your travel so that it's not hurting your pocketbook too badly. All right. Okay, ladies, I got to hop off here, but I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
Be safe.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.